Hi, this is Liz Coyne with Light Reading, and I'm here at the big communications event in Austin with Lynn Comp from Intel. Lynn, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Liz.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
So you talked a lot about network transformation on the keynote stage today this morning. Can you give me a kind of an overview of what's going on right now in network transformation?
We're in the middle of execution. And as I learned when I was in communications, as some of the networks were rolling out, as well as in cloud, when you're in the middle of execution, you end up hitting this trough of emotion and wondering, where am I on this journey? And so what I was really focusing on is the opportunity as you're coming through the journey of transforming the network in terms of what your services are, but really focusing on scale and automation.
Okay, all right, so what trends are you seeing with this, and aside from the trough, what's going on? What trends are you seeing with your customers when it comes to transformation?
So what's fascinating about being in both industries is I saw enterprise and cloud did something very similar where we're going to package the legacy in a virtual machine and then it's cloud.
Right.
And it turned out exactly how it turned out over the last 10-year journey. And everyone ended up refactoring and really understanding what part of the legacy do I sunset and maintain, but then what are the new workloads and the new capabilities? What has to be agile and efficient and something that can be managed in a cloud-like fashion, and then really investing in the new there. So I think we're in that transition of really understanding there were all the great intentions and all of the wonderful technical perspectives, but the encouraging news, we're at the operationalizing, we're at the OSS and the BSS. And I saw this when I was in enterprise, and so it felt like it was hard because we're in scale deployments, but it's the best place because it means you're heading into those scale deployments.
So a lot of the folks today during the keynote session talked about the roadblocks that they're facing. So what do you see as the main roadblocks to network transformation?
So I think that in some cases, it's not understanding what the tools really are at their disposal. And like, for example, one of the things that came up was use of open source.
Right.
And how do you strategically apply open source for developer innovation when you can't have the worldwide millions of developers all in-house, but then at the same time not expecting an open source repository to magically turn into a hardened product. So the vendors still have a role that is really, really critical in the market. And I think there might have been a mindset that perhaps they didn't, when in reality, if you had looked at how things played out in cloud and enterprise, you would see that they indeed did have a role, which is where I mentioned VMware being a gold member of OpenStack Foundation, which would be counterintuitive, I think.
So how can service providers, but that was one of the big topics as well, how can service providers benefit from the network transformation? They're the ones that are going to have to make all this investment in the network itself, so how are they going to benefit?
So I think that in terms of new services opportunities, there are really some characteristics that the network service providers have in terms of their footprint that allow them to bring that low latency experience. So one of the stories that I gave in the keynote was about a roller coaster VR experience. And my sons came off of that experience saying, that was amazing, if only I could be playing the game too. And I know that there would be such a brand experience that they could have if they could participate at that deeper level. But it's really not possible if you're trying to go over the 160 millisecond latency round trip for going over the backhaul. So I think there's some opportunities for those really creative services, not just consumer, which is the example I gave, but also even in the enterprise edge.
Okay, so how is Intel leading the network transformation? What are you guys doing?
So Intel is manufacturing components, and so what we're really focused on is taking this breakthrough, pioneering, best known methods and innovation out of one market or out of the markets we work across, and then working with the service providers and their supply chain to help use breakthrough software innovation, the Moore's Law economics of software scalability and future proofing, and really understanding how do I apply those learnings and tune it for my market. It's not going to be a copy exactly.
So another big topic this morning was virtualization. So how do you see NFV in this transformation right now?
So NFV is one of the building blocks, and it is the start to the journey for network transformation, right? And it's a fabric, it's almost like a foundational layer, but one of the things that I've been saying since I came back into telecommunications is that virtualization is really a means to an end of decoupling software innovation from hardware innovation.
Right.
so that you don't have to retest everything in the entire system every time you get a new hardware platform to be able to take advantage of that new performance bump or that lower power. So I think that the decoupling, it's a means to an end. It's an important journey. Virtualization was just where the industry decided to start.
Okay. And last question, what's new at Intel? Do you have any news to share for us?
So we're doing a lot of work on 5G and getting ready for that. I think is one of the key areas I've seen the wireless network operators really just bear down on because they realize my network is not capable of that level of agility and efficiency and so many different service characteristics. And I think the other exciting thing that I did talk about in the keynote is we had a platform preview where we were talking about the new scalable processor family and some of the amazing things that it's making possible, both in automation with some of the platform telemetry, as well as 3.9x higher virtualization throughput, for example.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining me today, Lynn.
Thank you.